Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Monday. We are back again with another Fanatics Weekly Review where I go through the top 100 items auctioned over on their website this week. As always, if you enjoy these, do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel, all that good stuff. But with that said, let's hop on over. And here we go. This week starting at $408, little lighter, so didn't have to spend as much to get into this weekly. Still a bunch of great cards to be had, and actually a little bit of an uptick, in places that aren't Cristiano and Messi, as we have in this row. You also have Camilo Zaninga, if I said that right. I have no clue, truthfully, but 2014 Prism Gold World Cup, of course, people's favorite in modern, I would say. That might even just be true. It's not even one of people's favorite. It might be people's favorite, generally speaking. 408 for what to me seems like a random player is sort of the baseline at this point, and good result. I mean, compared to years past, it's been, gaining steam as time goes on. Genesis Cristiano Ronaldo 2020 Mosaic. I don't know if Genesis was a case hit. I want to say it was. Anything that sort of has this type of feel, I just feel like is a case hit. But I know there's Peacock as well. I'm not sure exactly which one's more plentiful, truthfully, because Mosaic isn't my thing. But I'll probably look into it after this video because I am kind of genuinely concerned. But I am curious in terms of pricing, and I went and looked, and not really, a lot going on here. So in terms of, Ronaldo, where things are up massively, this is up $100 from the July sale, which seemed to be the bottom for this card back when it came out in 2022. I say back when it came out, that's actually a couple of years after, but in 2022, this was a $1,000 card, went down to $300, now it's at $400. So if you like the card, it's near bottom pricing for Ronaldo, which many things aren't, so wouldn't be a bad pickup. And I think the Genesis and Peacock look cool, but, in modern, a lot of cards look cool, so that's not everything, but beyond that, 2015 Select National Pride Orange Messi out of 149 goes for 408 pop, 1 of 9, graded quite a while ago, probably back when it came out. 1978 Crack Maradona and a PSA 1 for 420. These probably bottomed at like 200 maybe, and so they're up a decent bit. We'll see that as this goes on. Maradona's up quite a bit, which, is, I guess, encouraging, truthfully, because when Messi and Ronaldo were running, it was always a question of, like, are these vintage guys going to run? I mean, Maradona's one of the greatest. I know his gold tally isn't, as high as everyone else's, but gold tally is one metric to define a great, and to see him get a little bit of love is fun. Surprisingly, Pele hasn't really got a whole lot, but we'll see that as we go on. 2023 Holland Select Patch Auto, purple out of 49 for 420. Kind of surprised with this 1966 Franz Beckenbauer. It is a PSA 10 auto. It is a clean-looking auto. I like the pen auto as well. But a PSA 4 on this card is not hard at all. A lot of these grade very well. And so, 430. We see that sometimes for the rookie pricing, and I at least personally feel the rookie should be worth a bit more. Granted, I own the rookie, but I also just think, rookie versus second year, the rookie's kind of iconic. This is amongst a few different ones, and it looks good, don't get me wrong, but it just seems like a solid price, truthfully. 2021 Black Refractor Auto Neymar going for 430 on card. Kind of looks decent. I always mention that these just have terrible streaky autos, and this one looks okay, at least from this point of view. Paulo Rossi PSA 8 for 444. These always get good prices, and I believe that this is around where I tend to see them, so it doesn't stand out to me at least. We have a Jared Muller PSA 5 that went for 444. Sort of the same situation as last week. If you turn over the back, I mean, it looks a little crackly, like the black text isn't full and bold. There's little bits where it looks a little bit faded, and there's a couple spots on the card where you could find minute pieces of what seems to be paper loss, but ultimately, it just seems like a lot of these have been removed pretty well to the point where it doesn't seem PSA cares as much as they used to. And so, I think that that's just where we're at this point. But a PSA 5 for 444 also seems like a decent price in comparison. 2017 Select Silver Mbappe for 456 and a BGS 9.5, a min gem with a 9 centering there. Personally, this is probably where I would go for an Mbappe rookie card, at least if you want a more hobby product. It's a lot cheaper than Topps Chrome, of course, and there aren't a ton of parallels of this, so I think that makes the Select Silver even better. 2022 Dynasty Franco Baresi for 468. Looks pretty good. I actually tend to like these cards without a patch and all that stuff because they just have a nice spot to sign. I think these look great. 468 though is a good price. I mean, if you go back and look at what on-card autos of greats were doing pre-2020, they weren't really pricey at all. Most of them were probably like $100, and so now we seem to be more at the $500 range. And for some of the even better players, granted, hard to be a lot better than Franco Baresi, truthfully, but maybe better, more skillful goal scorers that people love, those tend to do, even like $1,000 or $2,000. David Alaba, 2016 Donruss 1 of 1, goes for $480. If you're a Bayern collector, that's a fun one. We have a Dennis Bergkamp jersey number Crown Jewels from 2018 Eminence, again around $500. And probably, I would definitely say not the player of Franco Baresi, but you do have sort of a cult following there. And again, more attacking, goal-scoring minded players do get that premium. Also, jersey number for the people that are into that. Cristiano Ronaldo Prism World Cup Captains, PSA 10 for $528. We also have a Socrates. I'm not gonna do the last name. PSA 10 for $540 there, out of Greece for the 2014 Golds. Above it, Paolo Maldini, PSA 8 Calciatore goes for $540. If we look here, as far as pricing goes on the Maldinis, this one, as we saw, went for $540. Pass sales $425, $372, $384, $424. $524 that was, $460, $300. Basically bottomed at $260 on Golden here. And actually $200 on eBay back in 2023, and now we're getting closer to $600. So up nearly $200. Well, I guess we'll go 150% from the low. Granted, there was only one sale that low, but even from some of the other sales that we saw back then, it's up almost 100% from the general bottom. So that's doing pretty well, I would say. 1968 Panini Calciatore Pele PSA 7 goes for $540. We also have a Cody Gakpo PSA 9 that goes for $552. And my screen's freaking out. Don't mind that. Couple Vanderhoots from 68-70 of Johan Cruyff and a PSA 6. Both of these do about $550. And the color on them is a bit different, which I find that interesting. I'm not quite sure as to why that would be. But I did look at the back of these, and the backs look pretty clean. There's not as much text to be able to draw from on these, so you sort of have to make your own conclusions there. But they're both pretty good prices. As I've talked about in the past, PSA 8 seemed to bottom out at like $900. So, having PSA 6s pushing, $500-$600 definitely is pretty solid pricing. PSA 8, Lionel Messi 2006 World Cup card for $560. Above it, a Steven Gerrard PSA, BGS 95 with the 10 auto from Select 2016. Patch auto, gold, $576 there. For, a pretty nice sticker auto. I mean, it's early Select. People like that stuff. And it's early days for the more sort of hobby product autos that aren't like Futera and other whatnots. Next to the Gerrard, we have a pretty decent price for this Gabriel Batistuta, which I thought was respectful. Granted, it is Eminence, which is basically, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's the highest tier product we have in soccer. $630 on that one, out of 10. Masters of the Pitch. Heinerle Yashin from late 50s, early 60s. I'm not really sure on the dating. I think it's 60, but PSA has is 59. I could be totally wrong. In terms of pricing here, this is pretty notable card, at least for me. This is the card I think of with Yashin. It's not his earliest, and we don't have anything pre-58 as known yet, at least as I know. And this is the card I think of with him, for better or worse. I just think it's a great image, great set. Wish the Pele was better, but ultimately the other guys have great pictures in it, and this one is no different. Very OC, I will say. I'm guessing that's baked into the grade, I'd have to imagine, but typically you have a little smidge of white on it. This one has a nice smidge of white, and does a good price. This one does $630. Last one on fixed price last year did $550 in this grade. Before that, $516, and $600, $600, $384, $384. So seemed to bottom at a little below $400. Now we're at comfortably over $600. So up 50-60% there. Above it, Prize Football, there's Messi sign. There's going to be tons of signed Messi stuff. We know Messi signs alike no other. And, if you want a Messi auto, I think you'll be able to get one day for, reasonable prices, at least for an all-time great. 2005 Mega Cracks, number 71, BGS 8. This goes for $660. These used to do like maybe $100, I feel like, at one point in time. And of course, with 2004 71 bits being up so much, that's bled over to the 2005. Next to that, a Topps auto of Lamine Yamal here for $690. probably better than, like an in-person signed Topps now, at least from my perspective, but it is a sticker, so I guess that's a detractor. 1966 PSA 7, so this is second year Franz Beckenbauer. It looks exactly like the rookie year, but you can look on the back and it has different text that indicates it is 66, 67. Good high grade here, 690 for it. 2004 PSA 5 Messi for 690. You know what this probably did earlier this year. I don't have to tell you, but it's up like 300%, I would imagine. Maybe even 300, 350. Lionel Messi Optic Red Velocity out of 50. This does $750, which, pretty decent number. Granted, it is a PSA 10. And in terms of pricing, I did look this one up. And you have some other Argentina ones here. In regard to the last Barca one that sold, that was $550 last year on a best offer, and then $400 on an auction a couple years ago. So, yeah, I mean, up decent, but not, crazy 4 or 5x like other Messis. Treble Ronaldo Blue out of 75 goes for $750 in a PSA 8. PSA 8's a pretty, probably average grade, I would say, at least for what is graded. They're generally pretty difficult as they are a thicker card stock and color everywhere, so you can't really hide. 2023 Lamine Yamal PSA 10. Number 423 for $750. That's about where these have been for a little bit now, so nothing surprising there. BGS 85 second year R9. This goes for $750. Pretty good grade. Granted BGS, so ultimately you have to be careful. We'll see an example here shortly of why. Year of the Dragon Chinese Topps Lamine Yamal. I mean, personally, I'd just rather have the base Topps that we just saw a second ago, but to each their own. BGS 10 Lionel Messi. Good premium over the PSA 10s. I don't know exactly where they're at now. I would imagine like 200, 250. I could be wrong. They bottomed at close to like 100, 125 or something like that. So I think the BGS 10 is working overtime here. Pop 107 also plays a factor, but how many people are grading this with BGS at this point? I'd have to imagine it's not many. Top Liga foil, 2004 Messi rookie PSA 7 is only foil rookie. Actually takes a bit of a step back. I didn't look at pricing, but it just feels like compared to what we've seen in the past. Now, granted, earlier this year, this was like a $200, $250 card, so it's still up a good bit, but not as high as what I feel like I've seen elsewhere. Topps Gold, so this is just base Topps, not Topps Chrome, but Topps out of 50 Lamine Yamal goes for $780. Again, I mean, at least for me, I know it's paper, but I take this over, the Mega Cracks PSA 10 that we just saw previously. I think in this era, sure, Messi's Mega Cracks matters, but that's because, Messi didn't have 40 sets with numbered cards in it and with autos and all this different stuff. I do think they stand out. I think the Mega Cracks are at least a standout in that regard, but I'd personally rather have a gold out of 50 if you can. PSA 5, 2004, number 89 Mega Cracks Messi goes for $810. Again, this was probably a $200 card all day, every day. 2014 Panini Prism Yellow Red Pulsar BGS 95 goes for $810 there for a quad 95. Above it, pretty good price here, at least I thought. I guess it is 2 out of 2, which is interesting, but that's a Figo 2022 Prism Gold Choice Auto, bunch of different stuff going on there, but pretty decent price to say the least. And then for some reason in 2004, this could be the Campeon premium coming on in here, if that's how I want to explain this away. We have this as the Campeon. This is the Campeon. Little less printed, at least so it seems. Also sort of more true to the Catalan region, which is, a nice connection to Messi and Barcelona and all that fun stuff. So could be what's going on there. That's how I would think of it. But, maybe if you dug into the weeds, maybe this 4 looks good and the other 5 looked bad. But, nitpicking on 4s and 5s is kind of tough. Kaká 2002 Campeonato Panini, a Brasileiro. This goes in a PSA 6 for $870. You don't see a ton of these at all. It feels like you see one maybe every 3 or 4 months, if I had to say. We'll go look at sales. Actually, we won't, because for some reason I closed it. But basically, the last few sales were at this same price, so it wasn't all that shocking. Now, there was a bin like a month ago for $2,200, despite every other sale recently being like $850. So, I don't know if someone overpaid. I don't know if someone was trying to work a good comp. You never quite know on a best offer or / bin, but ultimately, seems fair, I would say. Above it, Gazzetta 1958 Pele rookie. Always sort of talk about the same thing with this being a cutout of an album and not really like a true soccer card from my perspective, but a PSA 3 goes for $930, which in terms of comp seemed around the same price that they've been, although twos generally go for like 400 to 500, so it's a good premium from a two, but you also don't see as many threes, so not sure quite what to make of that, but not like a crazy price by any means. 1958 Team Pele Alifa. I'd say Team Pele. It's sort of, contradictive, I guess, to say that, but it's a team issue. It's got Pele. Of course, that's what the people are excited about for a Pele rookie, quote unquote. But 960 there. I don't actually have any clue on what those typically do, but it doesn't seem crazy to me when, a PSA 1 Alifa goes for like $5,000, $6,000, something like that. PSA 9 2008 Mega Cracks Lionel Messi goes for $960. We've seen a 10 pop off on this recently. I think it did like $5,000 or something. So a 9 at $1,000 is nothing crazy. I'd imagine pops and high grade are also pretty tough, and I'm sure that plays a factor as well. And then top row of page 1, we have a Mo Salah Purple Topps Premier Gold out of 50 PSA 6 that does 1,020. We saw, I think it was an oversized green last week or a couple weeks ago, do a pretty good number. This one is no different. PSA 6, I guess there was a fixed price here recently, $1,500. Before that, a PSA 8 for $1,200, so this does nearly the same price for 2 grades lower, and a PSA 5 before that did $355. So you could probably assume, in 2024, this is probably like a $400 or $500 card. Does, a little over 1,000 this time, so not too shabby. Speaking of shabby, this is a 1 of 1 2015 Select Black that goes for 1,050 in a PSA 9 grade. Pretty nice look to it, I will say. I mean, at least the black 2015 Selects have a pretty good feel to them. Of course, sticker auto, so that's always going to weigh it down a good bit, but pretty respectable price, I would say, for a player that doesn't have tons and tons of hobby love, but definitely notable nonetheless. Franco Baresi, Perfetti Forza Goal here from 85-86. Of course, this is the rookie year of Baggio and Maldini, and those are sort of the chases, but you do have some other fun players of the time. Serie A was packed back then with a boatload of talent, and one of the best defenders ever as well. Here, going for 1,050. Which in a PSA 8 seems like a strong price, but also, can you really argue it at the same time? I looked up a comp. The only comp I think was a PSA 4 for like $300 or $400. So it definitely gets a good premium over the PSA 4, but it's a super high grade, probably one of the highest grades you'll ever see on this, I'd have to imagine. And it's, a very notable player as well. I think Maradona's highest grade that we've seen sell probably did like 5 or 6K. So, a fifth of the price, a sixth of the price for Baresi doesn't seem crazy. Definitely seems strong. I don't think it went light, but at the same time, I can totally understand why someone would want to go after that. Great looking set, very rare in comparison to basically anything you find in the 80s. And, cool to collect because, of course, you got the rookies, you got Maradona, you got Baresi, you got a ton of other people in it as well. And so I think that that's a fun one to go ahead and see how it did. On to page 1 now for the top 48 here. We start with the 1953 Bruguera Termo. This is a Di Stefano PSA 8, which is super strong grade. It doesn't have a pop down there, but it is, there might be a 9, but basically on these, 8's the highest you ever really see. 1,080. Up quite a bit. It bottomed at 300 or 291 back here on Probstein a year ago. Well, almost 2 years ago at this point. And a lot of sales around there. These were actually very plentiful for a spurt of time. As you can see here from, December 2023, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had 7 in 3 months sell. And it just seemed like these were just going to keep coming forever, really. I mean, it felt like there was no end to it. It was kind of crazy. And then you haven't seen another PSA 8 sell after that for almost 16 months. And then another one here that goes around the same price as the last. And, it's basically the most, I guess, you could say quote unquote iconic. I don't know if that's the word that you would want to use, but it's the most plentiful, high grade, early Di Stefano that you're going to see. So for that reason, it's in a lot of people's mind. It also I think it looks really good, despite being seen quite a bit. There are other really good looking Spanish issues for the day. So I don't think it's the best 1953. We'll actually see another one later that does a higher price. So from that regard, I don't think it's the best, but I think it's a very notable early Di Stefano, and so 1,080 there feels good. I mean, I thought personally at like $300, I thought they were super cheap, but also they were just getting graded and sold in mass, so it felt like maybe they'd go lower. I don't know. Ultimately, the correction seems kind of fair considering that the amount of them being sold has dropped quite a bit. And 50 watchers on a 1953 item is pretty good for anything non-Pele. Next to it, Erwin Helmchen, Early Greeling. This was talked about in the Vintage Discord, as always, link down below. Vintage Discord, great source for just tons of info on the sport at large. Mostly vintage, but they do spill over into pre-modern and modern, so it's got everything really. But as far as the people we're talking in there, this appears to be a later release, a 1928 Greeling, and it's labeled as 26, so ultimately the people were talking, and apparently there's a 27 as well, so this should be 28, and it looks like it should be second year, but a very notable player and not all that common of a release. I'm guessing the grading and the year that was assigned to it probably helped a little bit, but ultimately hard to tell how much. 19 watchers there, which is pretty low, but as you could tell, a lot of people willing to go high on it. PSA 7 number 89 Messi goes for 1,080. Above it, the UK Traditions PSA 10 had a comment on one of the recent videos asking why I'm so harsh on it and, why I don't like it. Ultimately, I've just had a sour taste in my mouth since the beginning because it was labeled as 2004, but pretty clearly wasn't because the image is from 2006, I believe. So, there's no way it could have been 2004. Also, it was a part of like the Gary V soccer pump. He was holding a lot of these, being like, these are the thing. It's just such an odd release. Like, there's not another UK Traditions card that I could say, whoa, that's people want that too. It just seems like something that's carried purely on it being Messi and it being a PSA 10. Honestly, I think if these came out in like PSA 7s all the time and not all of them were 10s. I don't think people would care as much, but just because it's an early Messi and a 10, I think people are all over it. And truthfully, I don't think the card looks that great. The back doesn't really give you a whole lot, and you don't really see this release elsewhere at all. And I think lineage matters a lot more than people say. Like, to me, this is sort of just a random Messi in my mind. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. And next to it, we have a 1/1 Pat Production and out of 10 Prism Gold Heung-min Son, one of the most collectible players in modern, truthfully. And, I think that these are just better cards, in my opinion. And so for that reason, I've just always felt like it sold strong. And, even back in the day, it was $500, $600. Now it's double because Messi stuff's up, and I just don't see it, at least for me personally. If you like it, hey, you do you. I'm just one man with one frame of reference on the hobby, and that's what I speak from, so understand that and just take it into account, but do as you please ultimately. 2022 Heung-min Son Gold Prism PSA 5, as I mentioned, one of the most collectible players in the hobby from the perspective that the Asian crowd doesn't have a ton of soccer stars to take a liking to that really achieved the highest of highs, and Heung-min Son's about as high as you're going to get up there as for this moment in time. And 1,100 there. It seems strong for a PSA 5 Gold Prism, but again, when you account for him being one of the more collectible players in the hobby, it sort of makes sense. I view him sort of along the same lines as Pulisic. You could probably argue even in terms of player, but like in terms of having a whole segment of the world behind a player, I think that that's sort of very important. And so you might have a better player like Luis Suarez next to him, have a 1/1 PSA 10 Pat Production go for nearly the same price, and it's, purely just because there's not as many people collecting him. And ultimately, I do think the Luis Suarez was probably a good buy. Really. A 1/1 Papadasha, getting it for $1,000 is good, I would say, but getting it in a PSA 10 for $1,000, really good. Granted, Atleti jersey, so, but still, like, great player, 1/1 from a good set. Sapphire to me, I really like it in modern. I think the 1/1 is a little tough because people don't even know how to say it or spell it most of the time, so it's sort of niche in that regard, but I do think it's meaningful, and I think that's a decent price to pick that one up, personally. This is what I was referencing earlier with being careful on BGS, graded, pre-modern, vintage, all that stuff, because they had no care in the world for, looking and seeing if cards were trimmed back in the day in soccer. This BGS 9, as you can tell, gets, like $1,100, $1,200, something like that. When you look here, it looks good, looks centered, but ultimately, when we go back and look at comps, we have a SGC 7 here. Look at that border. It's not even like they tricked them. It's not even like it's just a sliver smaller. Like they didn't do anything crazy here. All of these are just much larger borders. And goodness, CSG 7.5 back here for $100. I mean, PSA 9 sold for $500. Again, look at those borders. So, nearly two and a half times the price of what a PSA 9 last did. Earlier this year, not even like years ago. It was earlier this year they were doing $500 to $550, and this one does nearly $1,200, and it's trimmed. So ultimately, I think that was a steep overpay, but that's the lay of the land. You got to know what you're looking for, and I mean, you don't even have to really be that knowledgeable. Just go look at other examples if you're going to bid on something like this in a BGS slab. Just look. I mean, it's not that hard. Just do a little bit of research and make sure the borders look good. Like, you don't have to be some sort of, rocket scientist in terms of card knowledge. You just do the baseline. Just the baseline, right? I think that pop 1 of 1 none higher is probably carrying a lot of weight, and it is what it is. PSA 6 number 35 Campio goes for $1,230 here. Again, $200 to $300 card all day. Goes for $1,000 more now, so just a little bit higher. Gold award winners, Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 9. I've always really liked this insert. I like the parallels, of course, that match it, and a gold Cristiano Ronaldo is going to do a good number. I mean, it's up a good bit. I don't know what it bottomed at, truthfully, but to me, even at $1,200, it doesn't feel crazy just because there's so many people that like the 2017 Chrome set. And I think in terms of the inserts that were in it, I think this is a really nice one. I'm pretty sure they were case hits. Again, I use that loosely, but I think in this example that is correct. Above it, 2024 black geometric Lamine Yamal auto Future Stars goes for $1,300. A PSA 2 78 crack Maradona goes for $1,320 as well. Really like the colors on this one. It's a 2, so ultimately, there's going to be detractions of it, but $1,300 is a strong price. These have been doing really well, and Maradona in general has been doing really well, as I mentioned earlier. I think that there was definitely a moment in time where this was probably closer to like a $500 card, and $1,300 now is pretty strong, but ultimately a player that I feel deserves it personally. Lionel Messi Red Flood die cut goes for $1,350 there. I mean, it's Messi, it's red, it's PSA 10, it's all that fun stuff. So if you're a collector of Messi, I get it. But ultimately, Obsidian isn't like super beloved. It's actually, pretty tough to sell, I would say, generally. And for that reason, I feel like it's maybe a bit too strong, but, it's Messi, it's low number, it's PSA 10, so, people are going to pay what they want to pay, and I get that. Thought this was pretty impressive, compared to, like, the Papardasha Luis Suarez in a PSA 10, you have a Paul Pogba black die cut from 2016 in a PSA 8. In a version of the hobby that popped off much sooner, Pogba would have been just a massive chase, and ultimately his career probably didn't play out the way people would have hoped, but still a notable player in this, era of France. And so $1,380 there. I mean, I can't hate on it, but ultimately, I do think like that Papardasha Luis Suarez for me would be easily a better buy. But a lot more watchers here, which is interesting. I don't know if that's Pogba. I don't know if it's the select die cut 1 of 1. I feel like select die cuts really don't get a lot of love, so it just kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit. But ultimately in this row, I'd probably pick it in terms of what card I want. 2018 Gold Vinicius out of 75, PSA 10, Donruss. Of course, Vinny having a pretty good stint over these last few years, I would say, and being able to make his 2018 rookie prices at least, stand out relatively to others. $1,380 there for a pop 1 of 11. PSA 8, number 89, Messi goes for $1,440. We have a Paolo Maldini 1 of 1. This is, it's a white box. I was going to say that seems like a pretty good price, but white box sort of takes away from it a little bit. Quite a bit, really, but $1,590 there for him. We have a PSA 8 1992 Panini Zinedine Zidane rookie. Not really a rookie, but I think it is his first card, so if you want to take that approach, I wouldn't call it a rookie, though, but to each their own. PSA 8, this one does $1,600. Last one on eBay did $400, $800, $600, $800. I think this is, it's not an all-time high price, sorry. Back during the booming days of pre-modern, there was a sale for $1,900 and $2,000. So it's getting back there, but it's not quite there yet, which is impressive. And I mean, we've kind of seen that already, and we'll see it elsewhere. A lot of this stuff's getting closer to these booming prices that we used to see. The Marks of Excellence R9 goes for $1,590 there. The Marks of Excellence is pretty beloved. I mean, obviously, Lamine Yamal kind of carried this, and I think it's helping others as well. For me, like a PSA 5 card that's, I mean, $1,600 far post-playing career, I just feel like it's strong, but ultimately people will pay what they want to pay, and 100 watchers indicates that a lot of people were keeping an eye on that one. So Roberto Carlos PSA 9 goes for $1,590. Did take a peek at sales, and apparently I closed it, but this was about what they've been doing. In general, I do think that they dipped a decent bit lower at some points in time, but in my head, I always sort of had these pinned at like 1,500 to 2K, so it's in that ballpark. We have the Heinerle PSA 4 Pele here from 1961. Luther Sport, this one does 1,740, pop 1 to 3-4 higher, so super strong grade there. In terms of pass sales, we have, granted this has eye appeal, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it does. Top 30%, which isn't anything spectacular, really. But sales before this, 1,500, 900, 900, 3,000, 3,000. So, seemed to bottom at about 900 and seems to be almost double that price today. We have a Didier Drogba PSA 10 Topps Chrome Starball, a debut. This goes for 2K, which, again, for post-playing career, just very impressive to me. But I know that there's definitely a segment of modern collectors that basically don't really even go back to pre-modern, and they're very fond of these modern releases. And to some degree, I can sort of understand it because, even if you go back, like, what early Drogba items are you going to get that are all that rare, really? It's hard to chase rarity back then. You can maybe do grading rarity and try for, like, a PSA 10 rookie or something like that. But beyond that, it's not really that exciting. So I get that. No clue what happened here. I mean, I have an explanation, I guess. It says auto on the slab. But maybe this is a clear indicator of people just bidding on what the slab says. There's no auto. Like, there isn't one, right? It's not like in white ink. You can't see anything. There's no auto. This is just a base Contenders historic ticket. The back doesn't even say anything about an auto. It's not like it was a card that was meant to be autoed but just didn't get autoed, so it's like an error or something. I think this is just PSA mislabeling it. And, always very funny to see this type of stuff when apparently there's 2 stops of QA checks along the way at PSA. They're claiming that not only did one grader do this, but 2 other graders looked at it and said, yeah, that's a Messi auto. No clue, no clue at all. To be fair, PWCC/Fanatics didn't put auto in the title, so I think they did at least what they could do. Maybe instead of putting PSA Pop 1 of 3 beneath it, maybe they put no auto. Maybe they don't claim this to be a Pop 1 because it's not a Pop 1 of 3. It's only a Pop 1 of 3 because it's mislabeled. So, I don't even know what to say. I am absolutely dumbfounded. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen because the price reflects stupidity, absolute stupidity. I mean, these go lately. They started at $150 in August. They're up to maybe $300 now in a bin, and someone just paid $1,800. So one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, truthfully. Speaking of, in this well, we do have an R9 auto in between out of 3, beautiful game blue. That's not the dumbest thing I've ever seen. To be fair, I guess when you see this pricing, it kind of makes sense how someone would pay $1,500 for an on-card out of 10. I kind of get it. But this, I mean, oh my, $1,900 for a BGS 8. Again, pre-modern vintage BGS stuff. Just look, just make sure the borders look real, or at least close to real. I mean, this one barely has any borders. If you're used to soccer stickers at all, seeing something like this should just be, something that you want to look into a little deeper. And truthfully, I didn't pull up other examples, but if you're used to stickers, this is not what a border looks like. I mean, there's barely a border on the top. There's barely a border on the bottom. There's barely a border on any side. And these should be a good bit larger, maybe even double or triple the size. So, like, BGS 8 grabs 2K. Really, it's just an altered R9 sticker. It should be worth, like, I don't know, a couple hundred maybe. I don't know. 1,900's ridiculous. And if I would have bought that, I mean, whoever bought it, I don't know what's right, what's wrong, but don't crack it out of the slab, because once you do, that thing is worthless, in my opinion. 2018 Blue Laser Kylian Mbappe goes for 2K here, PSA 9 out of 125. Didn't look up comps on that, but feels pretty good, generally speaking. Mbappe is pretty beaten up and seems to be coming back at least a little bit. Red Wave Merlin Chrome Messi for 2,100 there, and a PSA 10. Strong price, but doesn't seem crazy. We've seen a lot of Topps Chrome other, non-Merlin sets like base Topps Chrome do quite a bit higher than that, so it seems fair. Zinedine Zidane Dynasty for $2,200. Again, I get it. I get why people like this stuff. I just do wonder with Topps and, the Topps products that we have nowadays. I just feel like we're going to see this stuff continuously, really, at least as much as they can manage it. Soccer is a bit harder to release on-card autos because you got to basically go all over the world to get these autos together. But when prices like this are had on, we saw earlier, like basically everyone gets $400 to $500 on these types of cards. The better players get thousands of dollars, and then the really great players get tens of thousands of dollars. So if that's the case, they're going to make these types of sets as often as possible because clearly the market wants it. And so I just always feel like as much as these are well priced, I do think that they're able to be printed again. They're not unique. Now, granted, this is first Topps Dynasty, so if you want to make that sort of play, hey, I get it. But ultimately, I feel like more and more of those will come out. Above it, number 62, PSA 8 Campio Messi. It says Campio on the slab. I wonder if this is an example where it's actually not. No, it is Campio. Checked a little closer. It actually is Campio. This was probably like a $500 card for a good while, maybe $600. Now $2,200. PSA 359 VAV disc. Gianni Rivera. Barely ever see these. This one gets $2,300. In terms of past pricing, there was an authentic recently that did $1,200. So compared to that, I feel like a 3 is a pretty good price at $2K. There was a Raw back in 2021 that did $130. Granted, it looks kind of beat up, but no matter the case, if an authentic's doing $1,300, that's up quite a bit from 2021 pricing. Granted, the vintage boom sort of happened in 2022, so that's almost pre-boom pricing, I would say. 1953 Subias Chocolate Toros. This is the Di Stefano Spanish issue from 53 I was talking about earlier. Very beloved, great looking, not easy to find. They're out there, but they probably sell like once or twice a year. If we go back and look, there's been 2 sales this year. The 1.5 did $355 on eBay. That was probably a steal. Best offer before this in 2024 did $500. Another PSA 1 did $600. Last PSA 5 did $15, so this is up a good bit from there. I want to see if it's the same slab, just out of my curiosity, and it is up $1,000 and $300. Not too shabby. Really cool card, good grade as well. Pop 1 of 2, just one higher, super tough. A lot of these have chocolate on them, but with all the card cleaning nowadays, I do wonder if you could sort of remove that if you're interested in that. Above it, a camo 2018 Prism Ronaldo for $2,800. Camo's not the most beloved parallel, but if you like it, I feel like this isn't a crazy price for a gem mint, low-numbered Prism card for Ronaldo. 2021 Topps Now, Lionel Messi 1 of 1 does $3K, which super strong for Topps Now, but of course it's Messi, it's 1 of 1, it's Topps, people are going to be all over it. This 2021 Collection Standard Immaculate Memorabilia, a patch from Dick's Sporting Goods, does $3,100. Cool looking card, like it looks cool. So if you just want it for purely what it looks like, I get it. But just having patches from nothing always just doesn't sit well with me, especially in these price ranges. But I understand. Again, it's going for the same price as a Topps Now 1 of 1. So is it really that crazy? I don't know. 2023, this is the Ronaldinho. I feel like we just saw this sell, so maybe this is a rerun, but this does $3,300 apparently. 2017 Green Chrome PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone loves 2017 Chrome, or at least the general hobby does quite a bit. Goes for $3,800, which actually is a bit down from the last couple sales of $47, $43, $43. But back in 2024, this was $1,400, $1,500 card. I always sort of mention how 2018 just seems underrated. This is labeled as 2017, 2018. It's 2018, but this apparently did $85. So, it's probably a good bit higher now, maybe 200 or something, 250, something like that. But still a great discount for being second year. Next to it, you have a 1 of 1 Pitch Kings Black Cristiano Ronaldo that does $3,800, which, depending on how you feel about Pitch Kings, could be great, could be high. Basically 1/100th of the print run of Topps Chrome. You get a 1 of 1 for $3,800. In the world where people are paying, $3,300 for a Ronaldinho post-playing career 1 of 1, doesn't feel crazy for Ronaldo. Above it, take your pick. Here we have a PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo 2006 card, which is up quite a bit. Felt strong, and it is strong. These have sort of really run lately. In August, they were $1,600 back when things were still booming. And then in September, we saw $3,700, $4,500, and $5,100. I would be a bit, sort of careful here. It is a Pop 150, so it's not like these are incredibly rare. As you can tell, over the last 2 years, we have had 30 sales, so it seems like they sell basically once a month, even a little more. So it's not something you're not going to see again, and it's taken quite the run. Now, ultimately, I think that these are really cool cards, and I think they're worthy of a run, but, 416% always is just a bit nervy, especially on something that has that high of a pop. Seeing a really low-grade Messi 71 bis run is interesting just to see where that's at. Looks really good from the front. I'd be interested what makes this a 1.5. It probably has, some sort of crease in it, I would have to imagine. I mean, if you look around, though, really strong eye appeal. Really, really strong. And if you look at the back, I mean, I'm sure if you dug into this more, there might be something that pops out to you, but my word, that's a great looking 1.5. That might be one of the best looking 1.5s I've ever seen personally. I mean, has to be. I really, looking for like major paper loss somewhere, or maybe I'm just not finding it, but wow. Probably does a better price than I would guess a 1 would generally do, just because it looks so good. I'd have to imagine. 5,200 there. Cool to see that go. And my word, that eye appeal is something. But next to it, 2020 Gold Chrome Messi goes for 6,600. I'm guessing the Pop 1 of 1 thing here is doing a large part of the work because, gold, what, third or fourth year Chrome doing this high just seems crazy when, we saw just a second ago a green Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 10 2017 doing 3,800. Just seems nuts. But, hey, people love Messi. People love low pop Messi. So, I get it. I guess. 2004 Monday Chrome PSA 9 does 7,800. I feel like these sort of topped out at maybe like 9K, something around there. So it's down a little bit, but nothing crazy here. 2018 Eminence, of course, always have the talk about these autos, and that's why they don't do at least the numbers it feels like they should. 8,400, they're still strong price, but not quite what you would think they do. 78 Crack Maradona, PSA 5, again, these have been, Maradona in general has been doing well. These are no different. 8,400 here in terms of past comps. We can go and look. We have a PSA 5 here in July on a bin that did 5,600, so that's up nearly $3,000 on auction, which is very impressive. Before that, you have a PSA 5, another one doing 5,100, 4,900, 4K. Granted, there's no eye appeal stickers, but back in the day they were doing 15, 25, 35, so they were super strong at one point. Of course, more of them have come out. People sort of got down on the sticker, didn't like it as much for a certain period of time. But 8,400 is a super strong price there, and I'm sure the eye appeal is doing a little bit of something there, but very impressive nonetheless. PSA 5 71 bits at 8,400 feels around where they've been. This is a more recent cert, and you're always going to have that question with more recent certs of, are they better than the eye? Is the eye appeal better than the grade indicates? And this is an example where you can kind of tell why it's a 5, but maybe back in the day it could have been a 6 or a 7. You might have the same question with the 1.5 we just saw a bit ago, but price seems to be about what you'd expect. We'll see a BGS 8 here in a few. Next to it, a couple of Minimalls, a Youthquake Red, and a 1 of 1 Select Patch Auto from 2024. Second year 1 of 1, no card grade sticker autos. I'm guessing the patch is from nothing, doing 9K. Pretty strong, pretty strong. You could have a second year Lamine Yamal patch auto or a 71 bis. Take your pick. Keeping it moving, we get to what is the top row of this week, and we hit the trifecta of Messis. We have a Kaboom PSA 9 from 2017 Select. This does 12.6K in terms of past comps. So you can see it here. This is an all-time high price. It actually gets back over the October pricing of 11.9. It did drop a little bit on the last sale and then came back up here. At least so it seems. Yeah, okay. The date was 1 day later. So 1 day later after this one sold for 10K, this one goes for 12. And, up just a cool 650% over the last 2 years. So, not a big deal, not a big deal. People love the Kabooms, though. Kaboom is super big in the other sports, and so I think a lot of those guys have hopped into soccer. Sort of along the same realm of the 2020 Prism boom. We're sort of seeing that with Kabooms now. Kabooms, of course, much lower pop, so it's a little bit more sustainable. But whenever you see graphs like this, it is just a bit worrying, I would say. And definitely strong. Definitely strong. BGS 8, 71 bits here goes for 14K. These have dipped a little bit, I would say. This is about what I sold my 7.5 for last month, so it's down like a half grade. The price is the same, but it's a half grade higher now, which is a little bit of a dip. But ultimately, again, when things go up that much that quick, and there's enough 71 bisses out there. I mean, it's not super high pop. It's not like junk wax, but it's out there. And so, and basically they're in every weekly auction. So, the prices are going to be harder to maintain, but it could just be sort of a temporary dip that then, continues to sort of hold. But ultimately we'll have to see that play out over the coming months and as we head into the 2026 World Cup. And then finally, 18K for this 2004 number 89 Campione Messi in a PSA 10 with an NBA sticker. The silver sticker's sort of, I think it's the least impressive sticker, but 18K on that one in terms of comps. Down a little bit, still up 350% since May, so, doing okay. But it did peak at 25K in August, so we are down, a good 30%, something of the sort. So not... not something you could just wash away, but again, when something goes up from 5K to 25K, is a pullback to 18K really that crazy? Probably not. Also, Pop 200, this is the most available PSA 10 Messi rookie. You can sort of make sense of it. I'm sure the NBA sticker helps a little bit, but I wouldn't imagine it helps a ton in this scenario. But that tops this weekly for us. We'll look forward to 199 and see what we have here. So, some big boys, PSA 10 Messi rookie, number 35 Campione. PSA 7 crack is a crazy grade. We just saw the 5 do, like 8 or 9K, so 7's going to go crazy, I would have to imagine. PSA 9 Cristiano Ronaldo sticker, super hard grade for that. You don't see a lot of 9s, and 4,500 there, at least for the moment. Doesn't seem crazy. PSA 3 Alifa, strong card. Kind of looks like a rough looking 3, but ultimately you got to dig into that a little deeper. Select gold Cristiano Ronaldo from 2017, Kaboom Cristiano Ronaldo from 2024. You have a PSA 9 Monday Chromo as well, a BGS 9.5 Este, which is quite impressive. Always look at those borders. Just want to make mention. Purple Prism Messi from 2014 out of 99. We have a Ronaldinho PSA 8. That's a really strong grade as well. Pop 1 of 6, 6 higher. You have a PSA 10 Messi, a R9 Dynasty, PSA 6 Ronaldo, a couple Messis in that row, a really high-grade BVG Aquarella, a Sala out of 25. Seems like someone's getting out of their Salas. They sold the green, now the purple, now the black. So they're slowly working towards the bigger and better items. A dual Zidane Ronaldo, and probably a lot of fun stuff scattered throughout. Mbappe golds, Messi color from big sets. Some fun stuff to be had. So hopefully you're excited. I know I am as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's weekly review. If it did, of course, as always, make sure to leave a like. Any thoughts you have on the auction block, anything that sold high or low, maybe something you snagged, we'd love to hear about it down below in a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. As always, join the Vintage Discord link down below. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.